let's jump to this next story. What I have before you, my friends, is YouTube's COVID misinformation policy. The funny thing about this is I'm like, the most of the COVID stuff's over, like the mandates are mostly over. The US still require vaccines for entry, but they don't actually check. So it's actually the airlines who are requiring it. And then some people, here's a funny thing. Tons of people, everybody who travels knows this. They're like, you don't fly to the United States anymore. You fly to Tijuana and then walk in. Mm-hmm. You just walk in. They don't check. They don't care. It's the weirdest gap in security and policy or whatever. But anyway, here's the point. YouTube's medical misinformation policy, when you scroll down to prevention misinformation, doesn't mention anything about masks. In fact, I will do this in real time. Control F, and we'll type in M-A-S-K, nothing. The word mask does not appear in YouTube's misinformation policy anymore. So I tweeted this. YouTube updated its policies to no longer ban claims that masks do not play a role in preventing the spread of COVID. Essentially, you are now allowed to claim masks don't work. So we can see, initially, it used to say this. Claims that masks do not play a role in preventing the contraction or transmission of COVID-19. You were not allowed to say that. YouTube removed that, and I'm assuming you can now say it. Here's what they say.
I'll let you say it first because I got all kinds of censorship.
Oh, no, but look.
Period of time in my life, I'm good.
It says at the Google misinformation policy, YouTube's policies on COVID-19 are subject to change in response to changes to global or local health authorities' guidance on the virus. There may be a delay between new LHA and WHO guidance and policy updates given the frequency with which his guidance changes, and our policies may not cover all LHA and WHO guidance related to COVID. This is a serious problem that scientists have been saying this very thing, and YouTube was banning them. Rand Paul came out. Dude's a doctor. They gave him a strike on YouTube for bringing this up. If a doctor can't even talk about it, which doctor can? YouTube has arbitrarily chosen the World Health Organization as their end-all be-all for what is true and correct. Mm-hmm. This is extremely dangerous because the World Health Organization is a political entity, not a medical one. It is a political international entity, not a medical body. It is not like an academic group of doctors at a university doing clinical trials. It is a political institution. And YouTube's like, they'll be the experts.
Do you think that's because they feel like they are obligated to listen to a global authority because they view themselves as a global platform, even though it's based in the U.S.?
I think for YouTube, it's the easy way out. The World Health Organization, they have their pinkies in all these countries. They sound good enough. No. They actually work with a bunch of countries. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it's easier to use them as a standard so that we don't get in trouble with these other countries.
Well, how did we pick our arbitrators for other fact checking? You had the Washington Post, or not Washington Post, New York Times, and other periodicals that were being sent articles to see if it was political misinformation, if it was scientific misinformation. It didn't have to just be about masks, but either you're going to have complete censorship or you have no censorship, and the complete censorship needs a lot of oversight, and we're not there. And that's the idea, that you're not going to have a platform that's perfect. There's things that we can all agree on, that exploitation of children, violence, extremism in some sort of way of
calls for violence,
basically calls for violence. Those are generally accepted no-nos. It's when we get into these gray areas that you take a hard line stance and you ruin businesses, you ruin people's lives.
The problem is some people argue for free speech absolutism, meaning they argue you could call for violence because you didn't actually do anything. And I get it. If the idea is, we don't allow speech that calls for violence because that's a crime, well, that's not an argument, because then all that has to happen is they decide another kind of speech is a crime. Okay, well, now, insulting someone or not using their pronouns is assault or violence, and thus now they can say, well, that's not free speech, you're committing a crime, right?